Have you ever looked into the eyes of an older adult and wondered what changed? Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, even behaviorally? Aging transforms us in ways we never quite expect. Some changes are beautiful. We gain wisdom, perspective, even peace. But others? They sneak in slowly, reshaping how we think, how we speak, how we connect. And before we know it, these small, unnoticed habits begin to shape our lives, our relationships, and our sense of self. In my 10 years working with older adults, from hospitals to homes, I've seen this firsthand. The quiet behaviors that steal joy, create distance, and slowly isolate us from the world we once moved through with ease. The truth? No one warns us. Society either sugarcoats old age or looks away from it altogether. But today, we're facing it head-on, with compassion and clarity. And if, at any point, you find yourself thinking, wait, I've done that, or that sounds like someone I care about, don't scroll away. Pause. Leave a comment. I want to hear your story. Like this video if you appreciate honest conversations about aging. And subscribe to this channel for more insights drawn from real-life experiences and professional care. Because aging isn't about disappearing, it's about becoming. And sometimes, becoming starts with awareness. Now, let's take a closer look at the very first habit that seems harmless, but can slowly change how others see you, and even how you see yourself. Let's dive in. Talking about the past too much. Have you ever sat with an older adult and heard the same story 3, 4, even 5 times? At first, it might feel endearing, but over time, it can start to feel distant, like the person in front of you is clinging to a version of themselves that no longer exists. And that's the thing. The past often feels more vivid than the present as we age. The memories are clearer, the emotions stronger, and the world felt more alive. In my 10 years of working with seniors, I've seen this again and again, not as a flaw, but as a signal. When someone revisits the same memories repeatedly, it's rarely just nostalgia. It's often a silent cry for recognition, a way of saying, please don't forget who I was, because I'm afraid I might be forgetting too. But here's the hard truth. Constantly living in the past can create a wall between generations. Younger family members, no matter how loving, may begin to disconnect. They can't relate to those memories the same way, and over time, conversations become one-sided. So what can we do instead? Invite them into the present. Ask them questions about their thoughts today, their dreams now, their views on the world as it is. Make the moment mutual, not a monologue, but a dialogue. Because aging isn't about rewinding, it's about rewriting. And speaking of rewriting, our next habit challenge is something we all struggle with, especially as the world moves faster than we'd like: resistance to change. Let's explore that next. Becoming too stubborn and resistant to change. Have you ever tried teaching your aging parent how to use a smartphone, only to be met with frustration, silence, or even refusal? That resistance might look like stubbornness on the surface, but beneath it often lies something deeper: fear, loss of control, and the quiet anxiety of no longer feeling at home in a rapidly changing world. As we grow older, the familiar becomes our anchor. New technology, modern habits, even changing daily routines can feel like a threat to the identity we've built over decades. In my experience working with seniors, I've seen that what we call being set in their ways is usually a form of self-protection. It's not arrogance, it's a defense, a silent plea that says, I'm afraid I'll fail, or worse, I'll be forgotten. But change doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be gentle. It can start small. A new app that helps reconnect with family, a rearranged room that's safer and brighter, a hobby once ignored now revisited with curiosity. Each small shift is a signal. I'm still learning, I'm still here, and I still matter. Because evolving isn't about losing who we are, it's about keeping up with the life we still deserve to live fully. And speaking of dignity, our next habit touches something even more personal, something few talk about, but many silently struggle with: neglecting personal hygiene. It's time we approach that subject with the compassion and honesty it deserves. Neglecting personal hygiene. Have you ever hugged a loved one and quietly noticed they hadn't changed clothes in days, or avoided brushing their teeth, bathing, or grooming altogether? It's one of those things people see but rarely talk about. Yet for many older adults, neglecting personal hygiene isn't laziness. It's exhaustion. It's chronic pain. It's forgetfulness. And often, it's depression that no one sees behind a smile. In my years working closely with seniors, I found that personal care is usually the first thing to slip when someone feels overwhelmed or defeated by aging. The simple tasks, showering, brushing, changing clothes, start to feel like climbing a mountain. But the consequences reach far beyond appearance. Poor hygiene can lead to infections, dental problems, skin issues, and, most painful of all, social withdrawal. Loved ones might not say anything, but they start pulling away. The person feels embarrassed, even ashamed. So what can we do? Break the routine into smaller steps. Introduce assistive tools like shower chairs, long-handled brushes, or even soft music in the bathroom to ease anxiety. Set gentle reminders, or better yet, create rituals that feel meaningful instead of clinical. Because staying clean isn't about looking good. It's about restoring dignity, about saying, I still care about myself. And when that shift happens, everything else starts to lift too. Which brings us to another habit that sneaks in when life feels heavy. One that drains relationships and pushes people away without us realizing: complaining too much. Let's talk about that next. Complaining too much. Have you ever walked into a room and, before you could even sit down, been met with a list of aches, complaints, and disappointments? At first, you listen with empathy. But after a while, it starts to feel heavy, like the air itself has thickened. For many seniors, complaining isn't about being negative. It's often a cry for connection, a way to say, I'm still here. I still need to be heard. In my years of caring for older adults, I've seen how pain, physical or emotional, can hijack a person's outlook. When your body aches, your independence fades, or your circle of friends shrinks, it's easy to slip into a loop of frustration. But here's what most people don't realize. Chronic complaining doesn't just affect relationships, it shapes your brain. Studies show that constantly focusing on negativity reinforces stress pathways, making it harder to find joy even when it's right in front of you. That's not to say you should pretend everything's fine, but balance is powerful. Gratitude, even for something small, a warm meal, a kind word, sunlight on your face, can shift your emotional state and draw people closer. Try this. For every complaint, share one thing you're thankful for. Not to cancel out the hard stuff, but to soften it. And as your energy shifts, so does the way others respond to you. Speaking of things we hold on to too tightly, our next habit explores something far more visible, but just as emotionally charged: hoarding things we no longer need. Let's unpack that, literally and emotionally. Hoarding useless things. Have you ever stepped into a home where every surface is covered with things? Old newspapers, worn-out appliances, unopened boxes, and thought, how did it get this way? The truth is, hoarding doesn't happen overnight. It's a quiet accumulation of memories, emotions, and fears, all wrapped in physical objects. In my experience, older adults rarely hoard because they're careless. They do it because letting go feels like losing a piece of themselves. That cracked mug? It reminds them of someone they loved. Those stacks of paper? Proof that their life had purpose and structure. But while the intention is emotional preservation, the result can be emotional suffocation. Clutter can create anxiety, pose safety risks, and make even the most loving home feel overwhelming. More importantly, it keeps us stuck, physically and emotionally. So what can we do? Start small. One drawer, one shelf, one box. Involve them in the process with kindness, not judgment. Ask the story behind the object. Sometimes, telling that story is what allows it to finally be released. And when it's gone, something else takes its place: space. Not just in the room, but in the mind. And from that space can come clarity, calm, and even connection. Because when we clear what we no longer need, we make room for what truly matters. Now, let's shift to a habit that often hides behind silence, but carries serious consequences. One that affects health in ways that aren't visible until it's too late. Ignoring health issues until they become serious. Let's talk about why that's so dangerous. Ignoring health issues until they become serious. Have you ever heard someone say, "It's probably nothing. I'll wait a few more days," only to find out weeks later that nothing became something serious, something that could have been prevented? In my years working with seniors, I've seen this pattern far too often. A persistent cough, ignored. A strange pain, brushed off. A missed appointment, rescheduled again and again. Why? Because for many older adults, admitting to a health problem feels like admitting to decline, or worse, burdening the people they love. But here's the truth. Ignoring health issues doesn't delay aging. It accelerates it. That hesitation can turn a treatable condition into a crisis. Small signs, like fatigue, shortness of breath, or dizziness, are the body's early warning system. And when we ignore them, we silence the one thing trying to protect us: awareness. Preventive care isn't about being paranoid. It's about staying proactive. A quick checkup, a blood test, or even a simple conversation with a doctor can make the difference between recovery and regret. And if you're someone who's always been strong, independent, toughing it out, remember, strength isn't just pushing through. It's knowing when to listen to your body. And speaking of listening, the next habit we need to talk about involves something just as sensitive: expecting too much from family. Because when support becomes dependence, relationships begin to shift in subtle, painful ways. Let's explore that next, gently but honestly. Expecting too much from family. Have you ever sensed that your presence is expected, not cherished? As we age, it's natural to hope our family will be there for us. But when expectations become demands, daily visits, constant attention, unwavering support, it can strain even the strongest bonds. In my years working with seniors, I've seen how this dynamic unfolds. Adult children juggling careers, their own families, and personal challenges can feel overwhelmed, leading to guilt and resentment. Meanwhile, older adults may feel abandoned, not realizing their expectations might be unrealistic. The key lies in open communication and setting healthy boundaries. Encouraging independence, seeking community resources, and fostering mutual respect can transform relationships. It's about shifting from dependence to interdependence, where support is given and received with grace. Because when love is laced with obligation, it loses its warmth. But when it's offered freely, within understood limits, it flourishes. Now, let's delve into a habit that often creeps in unnoticed but has profound effects: becoming too isolated. It's a silent drift that can lead to loneliness and despair. Becoming too isolated. Have you ever noticed how silence can grow louder over time? For many older adults, isolation doesn't happen overnight. It begins subtly, declining invitations, fewer phone calls, days blending into one another. In my years working with seniors, I've seen how this gradual withdrawal can lead to profound loneliness. Studies have shown that social isolation is linked to increased risks of cognitive decline, depression, and even early mortality. But here's the hopeful part. It's never too late to reconnect. Engaging in community activities, rekindling old hobbies, or simply reaching out to friends and family can make a significant difference. Technology, too, offers avenues: video calls, online classes, virtual gatherings that can bridge the gap. Because aging shouldn't mean fading into the background. It should be a time of continued growth, connection, and joy. As we wrap up our discussion on the 8 common but unpleasant habits that can develop in later years, remember, awareness is the first step toward change. By recognizing these patterns, we empower ourselves and our loved ones to make choices that lead to a more fulfilling, connected life. Have you ever noticed how silence can grow louder over time? For many older adults, isolation doesn't happen overnight. It begins subtly, declining invitations, fewer phone calls, days blending into one another. In my years working with seniors, I've seen how this gradual withdrawal can lead to profound loneliness. Studies have shown that social isolation is linked to increased risks of cognitive decline, depression, and even early mortality. But here's the hopeful part. It's never too late to reconnect. Engaging in community activities, rekindling old hobbies, or simply reaching out to friends and family can make a significant difference. Technology, too, offers avenues: video calls, online classes, virtual gatherings that can bridge the gap. Because aging shouldn't mean fading into the background. It should be a time of continued growth, connection, and joy. As we wrap up our discussion on the 8 common but unpleasant habits that can develop in later years, remember, awareness is the first step toward change. By recognizing these patterns, we empower ourselves and our loved ones to make choices that lead to a more fulfilling, connected life. If this video resonated with you or brought someone to mind, please consider sharing it. Your experiences and insights are invaluable. Leave a comment below to share your story or thoughts. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content dedicated to navigating the journey of aging with dignity and joy. Together, let's continue to learn, connect, and celebrate the richness of life at every stage.